It was the golden age of Urdu poetry. India, by the late 19th century, could boast of names like Mir, Zafar, Zauq, Daag, Firaq and Mirza Ghalib. But Urdu prose had still to find its voice. In the small town of Badaयूं, in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, however, winds of change were imminent. Here, to civil servant Mirza Qasim Beg Chughtai and wife Nusrat Khanum, their ninth child, a daughter Ismat, was born in 1911. The event passed uncelebrated, and there was little in Ismat's childhood to suggest that she would be fortune's child. Writing in her autobiography, Kagzi Hai Perahan, Ismat said, "When my brothers and sisters were born, an English nurse was called. My delivery was managed by a sweepress. I was a plain Jane and had a great inferiority complex. I grew up in the care of servants. I think my mother hated me." By the time Ismat was 6 or 7, most little girls of her age were happy playing house with their dolls. But these girlish games found little favor with Ismat. She found plenty of more boisterous games in the company of her 6 elder brothers and the children of the servants of the house. It was a predilection that constantly worried her mother. Ismat's mother took up the matter with her husband. He was inclined to be indulgent, but when his wife insisted, he assured her that he would speak to Ismat and make her take greater interest in womanly pursuits. But Ismat remained recalcitrant. She continued to play football and gilli danda with the boys of the neighborhood, and her lack of tidiness earned her the nickname of Bhutni, or demon. Matters finally came to a head one day, and Mirza Beg Chughtai decided to talk to his daughter. "Will you learn to cook?" he asked. "No," she said. "Will you learn other skills such as housekeeping?" Ismat shook her head. What would she feed her husband after marriage? Ismat's answer left her father speechless. "If he is poor, we will make do with khichdi. If he is rich, we will keep a cook." Qasim Beg Chughtai could not be angry with his daughter for too long. Yet he too was shocked when Ismat announced one day that she wanted to go to Aligarh to study. "I want to take the matriculation exam." "It's no use." "Then I will run away." "Where will you go?" "I will take the Tanga to the station and catch any train." "Then?" "I will get down at any station, ask about the mission school. There I will become a Christian. Then I can study as much as I want." The Aligarh Muslim University is one of India's premier educational institutions. It was founded by Sir Syed and modelled on the University of Cambridge. Sir Syed was a man with a vision, and one of his priorities was to create and promote educational opportunities for women. He encouraged study and learning of a wide variety of subjects, and one of his earliest appointments was that of a teacher of Sanskrit. Her first battle won, Ismat arrived at Aligarh. Her desire to study and a thirst for knowledge, combined with a sharp, observant mind, were vintage Ismat characteristics, and would leave an imprint on her writings in the years to come. Hostel life brought a certain amount of freedom for Ismat, and despite its rules and regulations, she threw herself into many extracurricular activities. Of course, Ismat's favorite place was the library. She was a voracious and eclectic reader and enjoyed equally authors like Tolstoy, Chekhov, Maugham and Bernard Shaw. She was also greatly influenced by the writings of Rashid Jahan, whom she admired for her fiercely independent spirit and her commitment to women's emancipation. According to the social dictates of the time, parda or the veil was the norm. But of course, Ismat would have none of it. It was time for her to break with another tradition. At about the same time, Sajjad Haider was appointed as the first registrar of the Aligarh Muslim University. This was the house where Sajjad Haider and his wife Nazr Haider lived when their second child, a daughter, was born. They named her Kurratulain Haider. Both Sajjad and Nazr Haider belonged to an aristocratic, liberal and westernized family. Their daughter, Kurratulain, nicknamed Annie, grew up in an atmosphere that was both modern and privileged. Both her parents were authors of repute, and unusually for the times, Annie's mother learnt music. It was a gift that she passed on to her daughter. With both parents as writers, it was natural that Annie developed a great love for reading and writing at an early age. She wrote her first story when she was only 11. It was published in the children's magazine, Phool. Annie's world was one of gracious bungalows, peopled by cooks, bearers and housekeepers, where little girls were protected from the hurly-burly of the hoi polloi, where they could read and write in comfort and privacy. Where quiet moments encouraged painting, a hobby that Annie retained late into life. Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh, was a center of art, culture and learning, and both Ismat and Annie came to study at the Isabella Thoburn College. While still studying and barely out of her teens, Annie was already well known as a writer.
She was this well-known person already when she was a student. And she wore her hair bobbed, she wore a sari to the university. And so clearly, I mean, she was a star on the campus. You would go gunging in Hazratganj, you would go to the campus to catch a sight of this great literary star.
Ismat too had been writing for magazines like Saki, but she also had other concerns. Her father had retired, and finding a job was a priority. Ismat was offered a job in Jodhpur in Rajasthan and soon joined the staff of the Raj Mahal school. After her duties at school, Ismat found time to write essays, short stories, a play, and Ziddi, a novella.
उनकी ज़बान में जो एक स्पॉन्टेनिटी, जो बेसाख्तगी थी, और जो घर की जो ज़बान का मुहावरा होता है, जो अंदाज़ होता है, बेतकल्लुफ़ रोज़मर्रा की ज़बान, वो इतनी खूबसूरत यूपी की ज़बान थी कि इंतहा नहीं।
Sometime soon after, Ismat came under the influence of the progressive writers' movement. She wrote, "As a child, I saw minions in such a pitiable state that I began to hate both master and the institution of servants. I learnt that discrimination on the basis of class and caste was merely a farce. The real distinction was between the rich and the poor." This concern with the underprivileged sections of society remained a constant in her writings.
उनकी कहानी है घरवाली या दो हाथ, इसमें जो कैरेक्टर्स हैं वो बिल्कुल ज़मीन से निकले हुए कैरेक्टर्स कि जो हमारे समाज में कोई नहीं है, जिन लोगों के बारे में कहा जाता है ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है, ये वो कैरेक्टर्स हैं। लेकिन इस्मत चुगताई ने एक राइटर की हैसियत से कितनी मोहब्बत से, और पेट्रोनाइज नहीं कर रही हूँ उन कैरेक्टर्स को, उनको इज्जत के साथ देखा है, वो कमाल की बात है। पर्सनल लाइफ में वो बिल्कुल नहीं बताना चाहती थी कि वो बड़ी सेंसिटिव है या इमोशनल है, बल्कि अगर उनके सामने कोई इमोशनल बात की जाए तो एक नहायत ही शॉकिंग स्टेटमेंट देके वो उसको कैंसिल कर देती थी। किसी ने कहा, किसी से पूछा कि बेटा तुम्हारे माँ बाप, तो उसने कहा जी वो मेरे माँ बाप तो बचपन में ही मर गए थे। कल चलो अच्छा हुआ, जल्दी तुम मुसीबत टली तुम्हारी। तो इस तरह से वो बात करती थी हमेशा कि आदमी शौक हो जाए क्या कह रही है। लेकिन ये दरअसल एक तरह का कवर था कि जिसके पीछे एक इंतहाई सेंसिटिव इंसान छुपा हुआ है।
In 1941, Ismat was transferred to Bombay as an inspector of schools. Here she stayed with her brother, Mirza Beg Chugtai. Ismat's differences with her brother snowballed when she became interested in the film industry, and later over a growing friendship with Shahid Latif. Shahid worked with Bombay Talkies as a scriptwriter on a monthly salary of 250 rupees. For both Ismat and Shahid, their friendship was a meeting of minds. But Ismat's family disapproved strongly of the alliance. Impatient of any kind of restraint, Ismat moved out of her brother's house. To make matters worse, soon after this, Ismat's controversial short story Lihaf was published. The story created a furor, and suddenly, all hell broke loose. Lihaf, or the quilt, drew a vivid picture of the claustrophobic atmosphere of middle-class Muslim households, where women often live lonely, unfulfilled lives. Ismat's robust idiom and fearless style made it a path-breaking story, both in its content and style, and established her as a strong proponent of women's rights.
ये वो वक्त था कि यूरोप ने लफ्ज़ लेस्बियन नहीं सुना था, और सुना था तो कम से कम ज़ोर से तो नहीं सुना था, विस्पर्स में सुना होगा। उस वक्त हिंदुस्तान में एक कहानी इस तरह से लिख देने में जुर्रत चाहिए थी।
लेकिन इस्मत आपा की हैसियत एक तो ये कि किसी औरत को इस आवाज़ में बोलते उर्दू अफसाने ने नहीं सुना था उससे पहले।
It was a difficult time for Ismat. The scandal that surrounded Lihaf inevitably affected Shahid. And with her usual honesty, Ismat told him that he should think well before marrying her. Despite all this, in 1942, Shahid and Ismat got married. The marriage gave Ismat 2 daughters and a husband who was also a friend. They worked together on many collaborative cinematic ventures under their banner Filmina. It was the year 1947, and India entered one of the most turbulent phases in its history. The subcontinent was divided into India and Pakistan. The nation was traumatized by these events, especially those in the north of the country. Both Ismat and Annie's families were split up. And when Annie's only relatives, her mother and brother, moved to Pakistan, Annie also left with them. Annie described the trauma and anguish of partition in her magnum opus, Aag Ka Darya, The River of Fire. Its canvas covers the rich tapestry of Indian history over 3,000 years. The book, published in Pakistan, attracted criticism more for its subject than style. But criticism of her book was not the only reason why Annie was unhappy. She had lost her home, her friends, her social background, and most of all, her cultural identity.
ज़ाहिर है कि पाकिस्तान जो बना था, जिस उस पर एक सेपरेटिस्ट उसमें यानी प्योरीफाई करने का, ज़ाहिर है ये कंपोजिट कल्चर की क़ाइल थी और इनको सबसे बड़ी तकलीफ़ यही थी कि वो चीज़ जो हिंदुस्तान की मुश्तरका तहज़ीब थी वो उसके ख़त्म होने का उनको ज़्यादा मलाल था। और ख़ास तौर पे आग के दरिया में इसी बात को उन्होंने बार बार दोहराया है कि तहज़ीब जो है उसने इतना लंबा सफ़र कैसे किया और कैसे मिलजुल कर हिंदुस्तान के लोग रहा करते थे।
After a few years in Pakistan, Annie got a job in the BBC and moved to England. But here too, a sense of alienation, of loss, haunted Annie. She missed India for many things, from the fragrance of the first rain of the monsoon to its complex multicultural ethos, intangible and hard to describe, yet extremely addictive. Ismat had once described a childhood incident about her friend Sushi, with whom she shared many games and festivities, including Janmashtami, the birthday of Lord Krishna. Perhaps Ismat's lifelong fascination for Krishna had its genesis in such shared celebrations. She wrote, Krishanji has given romantic love the status of bhakti, an act of devotion. On one occasion, when Sushi presented Ismat with an idol of Krishna, Ismat was moved to introspect. I am a Muslim. Idol worship is a sin. But Puranic mythology is a part of my national legacy. Eons of culture and philosophies are saturated in it. Religion and the culture of a nation are two different things. Here I have an equal share, just as I have in its soil, its sunlight, its water. The need to return to her roots brought Annie back to India. She became the managing editor of the imprint magazine and later was on the editorial staff of the Illustrated Weekly of India. By now she had travelled widely abroad and was well established as a writer and an academic. Greatly respected in the field of Urdu literature for her elegant and refined prose, Annie was recognized as a prolific and erudite author.
एक बहुत उनका संजीदा एकेडमिक एटीट्यूड था टुवर्ड्स फिक्शन। वो करती ये थी कि जो भी दौर पे उन्हें कहानी लिखनी हो उस पर वो सीरियसली रिसर्च करती थी, उसके बारे में पढ़ती थी, आर्काइव में से निकालती थी चीज़ें। इस मामले में वो सिर्फ ये कि घर बैठे लिख दे ऐसा नहीं करती थी।
Annie's nostalgia about her childhood and early youth also formed a recurring theme in her writings. Her vivid descriptions gave her work great depth and immediacy. This is evident in some of her short stories in her book, The Sound of Falling Leaves, as Annie recreated, with deft strokes, her serene, untroubled childhood. After her stint in Bombay, Annie was offered a job in Delhi's Jamia Millia Islamia as a visiting professor in Urdu. She lived close to Jamia in Zakir Bagh. Once she had settled in, she made good friends and enjoyed a lively social life.
Annie Abba was this great fun-loving person. You would go to her and she'd want to know the latest gossip. Bhai, aur sunao, you know. So she had this, you know, girlish sort of quality to her. She wanted to know about new fashion. और आजकल शलवार कमीज का क्या स्टाइल है.
एक तरफ तो कहाँ इतनी संजीदा और दूसरी तरफ बहुत इधर की गप्पे सुनाओ भाई और कोई नया जोक सुनाओ और इस तरह की बातें करती थी कि आपको लगे नहीं कि बिल्कुल ये इतनी संजीदा और इतनी आलिम किस्म की राइटर हैं.
But writing was and continued to be the mainstay of Annie's life. During this time, she wrote her biographical novel, Kare Jahan Daraz Hai, even as she contributed essays and features to many magazines. She was the recipient of many awards, including the prestigious national award, the Padma Bhushan.
मैं समझता हूँ कोई लिटरेरी अवार्ड, ज्ञानपीठ अवार्ड समेत नहीं है जो एनी आपा को नहीं मिला. जी हाँ, पद्म भूषण मिला और बहुत उन्हें इज्जत नाम मिला.
In Mumbai, Ismat too was collecting her share of awards. The Ghalib Award, the Padma Shri, as well as the Filmfare Award for the Best Story for M.S. Satyu's film, Garm Hawa. The story, a sensitive portrayal on the dilemma of Indian Muslims during partition, also got Ismat the President's Award.
इस 50-60 साल में अगर कोई रेलेवेंट फिल्म बनी है पार्टीशन पर तो वो सिर्फ गर्म हवा है.
By now, Ismat's circle of friends and relatives in Bombay was large. Within her own family, there were Hindus, Muslims and Parsis. It therefore came as no surprise when she said, "We celebrate Holi, Diwali and Shab-e-Barat on a grand scale." Over the years, Ismat also gained the reputation of a caring, compassionate friend whose home was always open to those in need.
एक ज़माना था कि कैफ़े अंडरग्राउंड थे और मेरे पास कोई काम नहीं था, पैसे नहीं थे, तो शबाना होने वाली थी, तो मैं बीमार हो गई और खून की कमी हो गई मेरे अंदर. तो इस्मत आपा अपने घर लेकर गए और मुझे 15-20 दिन अपने पास रखा, डॉक्टर को दिखाया, मेरा इलाज किया. जब मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हो गई तब जाके वो गई.
Most of Annie's family, including her brother, were in Pakistan, where she occasionally visited.
मिनिस्टर, मैं उनका नाम नहीं लूँगी, उनके घर में हम लोग खाना खा रहे थे. बोले, क्या आप वहाँ रहती कैसे हैं? इन लोगों के दरमियान, नॉन मुस्लिम्स के दरमियान रहती कैसे हैं? तो इन खाना ने उसका जवाब पटाख से दिया कि मुझे किसी हकीम या डॉक्टर ने नहीं कहा है कि मैं हिंदुस्तान में रहूं। जाहिर है मैं सुकून से रहती हूँ, चैन से रहती हूँ, अपनी मर्जी से रहती हूँ, इसलिए रह रही हूँ। और मेरा एक ड्राइवर, आप सुन लें, आप, मेरा एक ड्राइवर हिंदू बंगाली है, मेरी कुक वुमन जो है मुसलमान है, और मेरी दूसरी मेट जो है वो क्रिश्चियन है। तो ये हम लोग इसी तरह रहते हैं, जो आप लोगों के समझ में नहीं आएगा।
Both writers, especially Ismat, became symbols for women's rights. Ismat used India's cultural heritage to make her point. Krishanji did not purchase Radha with gold, nor did he stamp her with the mark of ownership. He drew her to him with the melody of his flute.
औरतों के राइट्स के लिए तो उन्होंने हमेशा बात की ही और लिखा, और जो उनकी कहानियाँ हैं तो उसमें वो जो बंधन और जो बंदिशें हैं जिनके ऊपर मोरालिटी का लेबल लगा दिया, उनको उन्होंने तोड़ के फेंक दिया और बताया कि ये है क्या, ये कितनी खोखली हैं ये कदरें और कितनी झूठी हैं।
उनकी अपनी शख्सियत अपने आप में एक परचम बन गई थी फॉर द लिबरेशन ऑफ वुमन। यू नो, शी बिकेम फ्लैग मास्ट।
Ismat and Annie, two writers whose dynamic prose gave Urdu literature a new life and impetus, whose cadence and rhythms captured the flavor of an age and a culture.
इस्मत आपा ने एक जो मिडिल क्लास उर्दू स्पीकिंग नॉर्थ इंडियन मुस्लिम कल्चर को जिस तरह से उन्होंने कैप्चर किया है, उसकी जो डिटेल दी है, ये तमाम किस तरह से उन्होंने पेंट किया है, वो कल्चर तो खो गया, बिखर गया, लेकिन इस्मत चुगताई की कहानियों में वो हमेशा के लिए महफूज हो गया है।
Today, even as India steps into the new millennium, the works of Ismat and Annie are loved and honored as the perfect reflection of the multicultural fabric of India. Their writings transcend political and geographical boundaries, reaching out to all those who love a good story and the Urdu language.